Zlurpcast!
Before we begin, Biron, where am I at? What box am I in? My bottom.
You're the bottom.
With who? Who's my partner?
Mike Valdrick.
All right. Hi, Mike. Or was it? Hi, Mike.
Yeah.
We didn't get top row this time. And it's a bigger deal now because there's 3 on top. Zlurpcast TV special episode, a very special episode. Before we introduce our special guest, my partner to my left is Valdrick in his cactus sack gear. And we have Biron up top. We have Extreme up top. The regular players that you see on this show. However, the man in the green, Jimmy Rufer, host of That Board Game podcast. Online, you can find him, That Board Game Dad on Instagram. And he is a Zlurpcast original. Dare I say, more clout than Biron.
That's not hard to do
right now. Not Mike, though, because I think Mike was on our episode 0 before we were a thing. Rufer was probably like on 3. And then a couple of times later on. Extreme, feel free to jump in if I'm wrong on any of this, because you obviously know all of the Zlurpcast lore.
Rufer is the only one that has hosted without us.
Yes.
On the show.
Yeah. So he is a guest and a host.
A returning host.
Returning host. I hate to, take away the suspension of disbelief, but you were integral both for Puggy Bacon Breath and Count Luther von Compton, I believe.
One of those, yeah.
It was because it was the Bill Compton version of
the Bill Compton star player.
Yeah. Do you want to give a taste of that to remind people?
That was back in the good old days of Suke.
Yeah. That's it. Okay.
I do declare pass action.
Yeah.
It was like a vampire foghorn leghorn,
Yeah, it was a little bit of that in there too. What I love, that was right around the same time that Josh Aldous Snow Laserwolf did not actually declare a pass action playing against Katie, and he got his ass chewed.
Well, that is still part of Katie and I's back and forth. I declare a pass action.
It's her thing.
Yes.
Well, Mike, there's one
my
more
thing.
There's one more thing with you and Katie that involves Jimmy, and that would be the joke, right?
Oh, the buckles?
Yeah. Do you remember that, Rufer?
That was it was the buckles on the boots.
Yeah.
I think, were you arguing with Morgan Thorg or something?
Oh, that's what, it was Morgan Thorg.
Yeah.
Lace up my boots and he wears buckles or something like that. Anyway,
he was just getting angry.
Yeah, he was. We should do those again. Just kidding. But a lot of history with Jimmy Rufer on Zlurpcast. Countless tournaments. Creator of Ghouls Night Out tournament, right? Mm-hmm. And you've run maybe a couple others here and there. You've attended a bunch.
Yep.
Now you said, you know what? I'm gonna do normal adult male things and get a wife and get some kids. Smart move. That's a smart move right there. I wouldn't know, but that's a smart move. Because now you can say, all right, I'm not talking about Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl is for nerds. I'm talking about like 1,000 other nerdy ass games.
That's right.
I saw your shelfie. You've got a ton of games, and somehow you keep track and knowing how to play all those, which is crazy for me because I'm like, I can learn one and then I forget that one when I go to the next one. But you are you're trying to now get into the podcast world. Not trying, you are the podcast world. Maybe doing some YouTube, right?
Maybe sometime.
Okay, very nice. So follow him in his show, That Board Game Podcast. And today you are on this show to talk about the saddest of all games. Some may say Blood Bowl is sad. What's up, Biron? Blood Bowl sad? Tell that to the fucking Dutch guys that play without shirts on. They're not sad.
What is with that trend? It's not just it's everywhere, and it's
Yeah.
And some of them are looking pretty good, but some no.
Is that's part of the joke though? I think.
Oh, like half of them got giant pepperoni nipples, and
yeah, it's like salamis versus pepperonis. Choose a side. So we want to talk in this episode about playing with yourself. Solo board games. And before we get into it, I've never played a solo board game in my life.
You've never played solitaire with cards?
Solitaire.
Okay.
Sure. Oh, sorry. I said board.
Okay. So I guess that is a good distinction then.
Yeah. I played solitaire with
Have you played
as a child. I think it was like, spending time with my yaya, and she didn't want to play any games, so she's like, go play solitaire. Yanni. And on the computer once or twice. True.
What about
Sure.
bottom of the ninth?
That's a 2-player game though, right?
Yeah, but you can play it solo. You never
Oh,
played
but I
solo.
never played solo. I don't want to say I don't own a game that can be played solo. I've never played a solo. Okay, I've never played a solo choice of a board. I don't know what you want to call it. Who here has? I know Rufer has. Biron?
Actually, I would say I played Kingdom Death. That's a choice solo game,
Okay.
and
here's
it
the
plays
thing.
very well solo. So
I'm not against any of it. I just didn't. I don't know.
I would say I wouldn't prefer to play it solo, but if it's got good solo rule set, it's a good way to learn the mechanics of the game before showing it to your friends.
Yeah, and like I'm not against it. And I almost think about it like I don't play a ton of video games, but I rarely get into a standard 1-player. Here's my adventure video game. I rarely do it. I like sports games for the most part, or just games against somebody. So I don't know. It's a similar kind of thing in my head. Rufer, what draws somebody besides loneliness to playing a solo board game?
So some of the things that you've already mentioned, actually. So to me, a lot of the games that are coming out now have either a solo variant or they're including 1 through, X number of players for the rules. So to me, it's much easier to put it on the table, kind of learn the basic structure of the game and how it's played before I take it to either like a gaming group or before I discuss it with people. So kind of learning the mechanics of these games before having to just put it on the table, and then it's okay, now it's game night and people have invested their time to attend, and we're going to spend 40 minutes dissecting through the rule book, when it's much easier because like, oh well, I've played this a few times, this is how this certain thing works.
Yeah, that's a great point. Would you say that even a non-solo game and 2 or more players, you could choose to just do that as a way to learn the rules because you want to digest them and act as other players, right?
Yeah. So it sort of depends how you define solo gaming. Just like you said, you could play maybe Pandemic is a good example. You could play as 2 characters by yourself, taking on both of those roles, even though it's technically a cooperative game, just trying to see, okay, so what sort of synergy can I get between these 2 characters, or what can I do? Spirit Island is a really good example of that. That's a very highly rated solo experience, but generally speaking, people who play it will play more than 1 island spirit. So is it, yes, I am the only human player at the table, but the way the game is set up, I'm setting it up for a 2-player game, even though it's only me at the table.
Yeah.
Really?
One game that's multiplayer, but have played solo is that Arkham Horror trading card game, because it scales well. 1 player, 2 player, 3 player. It changes the rules a little bit, and I find it's actually easiest with single player usually. But that's another good one that I played several times before bringing it to the gaming group.
Really, any co-op game can be played solo.
Yeah.
Well, I would argue that Pandemic, if you're playing with someone who's bossy, becomes a solo game that you just observe.
I was going to say that a lot of co-op games become solo games where someone else is rolling the dice for you, you know,
Or telling you exactly where to go.
Yeah.
You need to go here.
Yeah, extreme. I was going to say the exact same thing. I think to Rufer's point earlier, what kind of game is it indicates what exactly are we talking about with solo game? Is it, so I think a game, let's just take Blood Bowl, for example, because we talked about earlier. That's not there's no solo version of Blood Bowl. You literally have to pretend I'm playing against another person and making moves. And that I can't get my head around that because I'm trying to win. And it's like, but I already know what I'm trying to do. I have to pretend I'm not. Co-op
Like that guy that
games-
played an entire league of Techno Bowl by himself.
Oh, man,
Oh, yeah.
that's brutal. That's unbelievable. I guess at that point, if you've made cubes for every single player in the game, you owe it to yourself
Yeah.
to finish this project, just play. But that's a two-player game, acting as one player. A co-op game where you're playing against an AI of some sort, or that lends itself to one player, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Are there any competitive games you can think of that are good solo? I can't.
Well, Jim Rufer, competitive games, one-on-one or one against many that you are turning into a solo version?
Not necessarily. Well, it depends.
Unless
There
it's
are-
designed for it, I would think, like with an AI component.
Yeah, games like Scythe, which is a competitive game, area control, they have a built-in AI mechanic for solo rules. And you're seeing that a lot more now with older games where maybe solo gaming wasn't really a focus in the board gaming community. Now it's kind of a big genre, and a lot of companies are pushing toward, I feel like they're pushing toward more solo gaming or availability for solo gaming. And then with last year, with 2020, people being locked up in their homes, I think even more so the push for solo rules, whether it's home built or community built or from these companies, a lot of solo games were being rolled out.
Yeah,
Do you
I think
think-
last year there was a lot of companies that were putting out like PDFs or something on how to play their game solo. But I think most of the time when you do that after the fact, it sucks. Like that's something you really need to do as you're developing the game.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've seen a lot of games that are solo only that have been developed and driven and like pushed out within the past like few years even, which is different.
Do you think we talked in the past about people always ask for campaigns and they ask for it, but they don't really want it. They just want it there. Do you think people, you mentioned Rufer about getting more popular, it becomes a thing. I want to be able to play solo or with people, but then it still sits on the shelf. It's like they're asking for it just to have it, or do you actually think there really is a level of popularity in that?
I think it really just depends on the game and the genre. Games like Gloomhaven, where it's 1 through 4 players, you can just as easily play in a solo game and either multi-hand management or solo, and then you could bring in your friends. It just sort of depends on what game you're talking about.
I think it's just smart to include solo rules in any game you're coming out with, because we know how cheap board gamers are. They'll be like, oh, so-and-so has this game, I don't need to get it. Well, you add a solo component and maybe everyone in the group wants to get it, even if they have no intention of ever playing.
They're still
You
going
can
to
use it to justify a purchase.
No, they're doing the print and play version if they're doing solo anyway. Just to try it out. Yeah, so Rufer, like a game like Gloomhaven, I've never actually played, but it's a dungeon crawl without a games master, correct?
Correct. So it's all scenario based. There are, right now, there's two versions of it. There's like the big box Gloomhaven, which was a Kickstarter a couple of years back. And now they have Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, which is like a smaller box, still comes with a ton of content. And it's all scenario driven. So you open up, it's a booklet, you open up the booklet, it's the map for the scenario. In some, like in Jaws of the Lion, it's all in the book. Or in the big box Gloomhaven, you're putting out all the pieces for this. And then if you meet the objectives of that scenario, you go on to the next one. And so you open up the booklet and kind of set up for that.
So that smaller Gloomhaven, that's a standalone as well?
It can be a standalone, or I think they marketed it as an expansion to the base game, but you do not need the base game to play.
Yeah, because I think I've seen it even at like Barnes and Noble, not just.
Yeah, yeah, they have it at like Target too. So
yeah, it was initially released at Target. I think a price point of about $50, which with everything that comes in the box is a great price. And if you look at like all these board games that they sell at Target now, you can get deals through the Circle app, or they'll have deals just in store or online. It's crazy.
You know who's a fan of that? Friend of the show, Todd Warren at Grognard Games.
Use promo code BeerOn at grognardgames.com for no money off.
But I think it's smart because it's a big barrier of entry. That Gloomhaven box is a barrier of entry for sure.
Yeah.
$50, and it's similar. It's basically the same game, right? As far as core rules.
Yep. Same hand management, same basic rule set. It's just that obviously when you go from, a 10-pound box to a 5-pound box, it's significantly less.
But it's still like sort of like the Risk Legacy model where you're opening and discovering stuff as you go along.
Yep.
That's cool.
My familiarity with Gloomhaven is a potential Death Path backer asked, why should I buy your game with all the expansions of Gloomhaven? And I said, don't. Go get Gloomhaven. And guess what? Who won? I'm still on version 1. They're doing expansions.
Yeah, you made it perfect. You didn't need to update.
Right. You didn't need to. Better fucking box. Better box. So, Rufer, you would say that obviously depending on the game, depending on the genre, all of that. Your typical game that has a solo component, that it was designed for it, most likely is in the co-op realm, or just, one player, you against a deck, right?
Not necessarily, but some are. And it's a tricky response to a very straightforward question. Like right now on my table, I've got A Feast for Odin. This is like the game that I'm obsessed with at the moment. It's a 1 to 4 player game right out of the box. And it's a worker placement game. So right now I'm playing it solo. And so technically I am only competing for a high score right now. I played it last night against one of my colleagues. He came over, we played as a 2-player. And so I'm
not a friend, a colleague. You want to make that distinction.
Well, he's a potential friend.
Right.
He's a friend.
Hey, hold on. Is he watching this now? Could he be?
He could be later, and he knows that he is a good friend of mine.
He's a friend and a colleague. Okay.
Yeah.
Like New Shimmer is a floor wax and a dessert topping.
Yeah, there you go.
He's a friend of yours. Is he a friend of ours?
The friend of the show.
Is he a potential friend of the show?
Friend of the show.
Could be later.
A PFOS.
I think you guys would like him.
Oh, cool. He's a PFOS.
Yeah.
So when playing this game against yourself, you're trying to beat your last score or your high score. Otherwise, it becomes competitive against your friend colleague.
Correct.
Your colleague, if you will.
What's his name? What's his name?
His name is Brian.
It's way easier to say Brian. Do you ever text them and then write brain instead?
No, because he's a BRY.
What?
I know.
Ys are the best.
Name bros.
Biran is better though.
Yeah. Oh, Rufer, do you know he's called Biran, not Brian? Brian Thompson. It's actually Biran, Biran.
He's a Biran?
It was due to an incorrect misspelling on his birth certificate, actually. No, it was actually an incorrect misspelling by a large Hungarian man who frequents Grognard Games, who's part Turkish, mostly Hungarian.
Probably non-consensual Turkish.
Oh, when I said Hungarian, I meant hungry.
Oh,
Never mind, not Hungary. I mean
Taco
hungry.
Bill, we called him.
So that game, Rufer, what's your preference? I mean, I would imagine playing against Brian, but it's also enjoyable solo, right?
It's kind of hard to say. I had a very good time playing against Brian last night, just because it's nice to actually have some human interaction and kind of making these decisions. So in this game, because it's a worker placement game, you can only use certain actions. And then once it's taken, the next player is not able to do that thing. So trying to figure out like, well, what is he going to do next? Is that something that I'm going to need down the road? Maybe I need to take that action now. So sort of the strategy of playing against a player was really fun, but the solo rule set is also, it's really, really enjoyable. I really like. Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, the solo rule set seems like it's an efficiency battle. You are trying to better your method of winning or playing the game at an efficiency level. You're not trying to guess what someone's going to do because there is no someone. You just want to be, live your best life, as the kids say, while playing the game and have the best. Like, you know what? I should have done this instead of this. But you're playing against yourself. And is there some chance in that or not really?
No, so actually for this game in particular, the system is very different than what I've run into with different solo games. So you simulate a second player, even though you're the only person playing. So you have two different colored like workers that you're using. So I'm like right now I'm using figures of red and figures of blue. So while I'm using red to make my selection, they stay on the board. The next turn I make selections of blue, but the red players are still on the board occupying spaces. And so then at the end of the second turn, then you clear the red and you make your selection. So then blue is occupying spaces. So it's kind of doing the same thing that a second player would, where I can't make this same thing over and over. I can't, like, so this is a Viking themed game. You're going out and you're, hunting wild animals to get meat to feed your family. You're going out on whaling ships and bringing in all this, all these goods. Like, it's pretty cool stuff. But now in between the turns, like, I can't go do that next time because I just did it. And trying to still figure out the dynamic of the player action, even though I'm the only person, it's kind of this cool puzzle. So even though it's not Brian playing against me, it's still occupying some of those spaces that I might want.
If you play this game solo 10 times, 20 times, do you think you'll ever get to the point where I know how to do everything? Kind of like Biron said earlier, when you're playing a co-op game with that one person who knows the game inside and out. Like, no, you got to go here first, and don't go here. And then do you think that would happen in a game like this?
Not this particular game, because there are so many actions that you can take. The action selection board, I want to say there's like literally 60 different things that you can choose. So it's like you could play this game 10 different times with 10 different strategies and have different outcomes. And that's another part of the reason why I'm really enjoying this game in particular, is because although I've played it 5 different times, I've had 5 different scores, even trying to replicate a similar strategy, and it just like putting it into effect, it's different every time.
This is called Feast for Odin?
A Feast for Odin.
Okay. No spoilers, but does Odin get the feast at some point?
Odin does get the feast.
Oh.
I'm sorry to ruin it.
No, that's actually, I'm happy because I was going to have a hard time sleeping at night. I was going to buy the game. Now I don't have to.
Yeah.
That's great.
The ending.
Right. Mike, you play games on the train. Those are solo games that you play, correct?
Yeah, but they're usually on my phone. So, or
Rufer, does that count?
Yeah.
But aren't they games that you could buy box versions of usually?
Oh yeah, like Railroad Inc. and what's the train one? Ticket to Ride.
Well, it's a lot of the same games that Rufer you play on board game
Arena.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I digital version, but
Yeah.
do those? And this is an interesting question. Due to being able to play something online, does it then transform what normally wouldn't be a viable one-player game into that because there's a version? I don't know if there's additional AI created to play against a computer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, some of the games do, like Ticket to Ride, you can set, how many different opponents do you want, what's their skill level, et cetera, et cetera. So in that sense, yeah. Other games like Elder Sign, which is basically Cthulhu Yahtzee. Yeah, that one's just playing online or playing.
Mike, have you played an actual tabletop solo game?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I do like I said, the railroad games. I do that a lot solo. There's
The Welcome
it's a
to
dungeon
games,
crawler,
right?
but it uses cards.
Which one, Extreme?
Don't you have the Welcome to games, Mike?
Oh yeah, yeah. The Welcome to games. I do those.
Dungeon
What's the other
Roll,
one?
maybe?
What?
Dungeon Roll? Is
It
that
wasn't
the
dungeon roll. It was something I forgot what it's called.
Was it Role Player?
No, it's with cards and you use.
Was it Boner Storm?
It wasn't Boner Storm.
Real game.
there was the Space Hulk card game. It was solo, wasn't it?
Mhm.
I never played it, but
Yeah,
And now it's out of print.
yeah.
So, Extreme, what are your go-to solo games?
well, I do a lot of making games that aren't solo games. So like playing both sides of games. I'll do that a lot.
The saddest of all solo games.
Yeah.
Do you use different voices when you're on the other side of the table?
No, I don't.
You have
You-
different hats.
Sometimes I will have like separate chairs so I can get up and move to the other chairs to get into the mindset.
You know, it's like, well played, Brian. Well,
Do you ever
thank
go
you, Brian.
online, complain about the other guy being cheesy?
Yeah. My
They're
opponent
like,
last
the
night
guy's like a total jerk. Is he in this forum right now? He is me. It's like, oh,
Wasn't there
man.
that? Weren't you doing an RPG solo game?
No, I kickstarted one. I haven't
Okay.
received it. The
I bought one of
Stormweavers.
those and I never played it. It was a RPG card game, but then there was an app too, and then I just threw it in with a get rid of games.
I thought there was one where you had graph paper, you had to make your own maps and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Or
Forward
against
Darkness.
what was it?
Darkness.
Or against Darkness. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
fun.
I have played that quite a bit. It's pencil and paper RPG, dungeon crawler.
Can you draw like extra friends to play with if you got really bored?
No, that game is designed specifically for solo. Like you
Okay.
can't play it with people.
But Extreme, you are playing competitive one-on-one games solo, correct?
Yeah, but I mean, not in a competitive spirit, but they are competitive games.
Well, why wouldn't they be? I mean, no joking. Like, why would you not try to? I mean, because you have to put yourself in the mindset to win. I know you know what the other person's going to do or whatever, but you try, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in some ways, I think if you're looking at, like, I've played Blood Bowl solo, and if you're looking at it as a competitive game, it's almost better to know what your opponent's doing, because then you can try to learn how to react to what they're doing. So, like, get in your own head and pick apart your own game a little bit.
Did you figure out the cage? People have been trying for 35 years to break the cage.
Yeah.
I think it's unstoppable.
It's tough.
Unstoppable. You can't break the cage.
If you could roll the dice well enough, everything's breakable.
No.
3 die uphill
unbreakable.
block.
I love when you're playing against someone in Blood Bowl and they get the fourth person in there and you look at their face and they feel so proud. Like
I only got the cage against Todd.
they're like, your go. Like, it's not a big deal. I'm just gonna fucking surround your shit. You're done.
I've done it.
So Extreme, when you're playing those games, do you find yourself doing it for a like prepping so I can be better at this game when I find real people?
I mean, with Blood Bowl specifically, yes. But
Well, I don't mean Blood Bowl, but like any
Some of the
games.
Now, some of the other games, I mean, a lot of the times I've used the Dead Zone mat to make up, I don't know, a ton of different games for myself, but they're games that I know I will have fun with, but I'll never find anyone to play with, so I'll just play.
Are you the only one that doesn't use the Dead Zone map as a mouse pad that I know?
Possibly.
You know what the best use I found too was when we were really into Super Show. You put the little mat in the middle,
Yep.
and then that covers up like a 4x4, not in feet, 4x4 squares, and then the one the outside that's like outside of the ring.
That's the arena. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks great. I think the Dead Zone mats, and I would even say to a point, I mean, if you wanted to, Dead Zone rules make an outstanding shell of a game to build, kind of like we talked about in our last episode, the guy I made, the pyramid guy, and he's like, you can play 100 games with the pyramids. And so a shell to do your own thing with. And I think with Dead Zone,
I mean, every time I find like skirmish models that I like, the first thing I think is, how can I use the Dead Zone rules to play with these models?
Biron, besides the Arkham Horror card game.
And Kingdom Death Monster.
Kingdom Death, okay. That one you feel like you have to play because you invested a lot of time and money. And
and I painted up like a bunch of the miniatures, which is rare for me.
Yeah. Was that, I think for that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I bet you for Kingdom of Death, was that more of a, I want to get good at it in case Ryan is ready for me to show him the game?
I wanted to learn how to play it so I could bring it to the group.
Right. That was what I'm not trying to, say that you go at solo games differently than others, but I would imagine from what I know about you, it's more of a prep thing.
Yes.
Because
if I'm home alone, I'm probably playing video games.
Yeah. Or masturbating. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'll do that when we hang out at Uncle Bill's Diner too.
Yeah.
That could be a group thing as well.
Listen, I know you have an Oculus too, probably. You're probably doing that with that too. So I get it. Are there any solo games, Biron, that you
well, like Mike, Railroad Inc. is a good solo game for sure.
Okay.
Rufer,
do you know that one?
What's that?
Railroad Inc.
Yep. Yeah, I have the red and the blue.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have every game?
No, certainly not every game, but I do have a lot of games.
You have a solid shelfie, is what he's asking.
I need another Calyx for my games.
Oh, Calyx.
We always called it Kallax.
Mine.
We were all doing it wrong.
I think, yeah.
Maybe I am.
Well, wait, Biron, did you say Kallax? Like it's.
I say Kallax.
I say Calyx.
And he says
What do you say?
Calyx. Calyx sounds
Calyx.
Klingon to me.
Mike, what do you say?
I don't.
Extreme. What do you say?
I've never actually said that word, so.
Can you say it now?
Extreme looks like more of a Billy bookshelf kind of guy.
How do you spell it?
Yeah, without thinking about it, of course, we've already tainted. This is a terrible scientific study, Mike. You already heard this.
Well, how do you spell it?
Kallax.
That'd be
Are there
Calyx.
2 L's?
Yeah, Calyx.
Are there
2 for
2 L's?
Calyx.
I thought
2
there was
L's.
only 1 L.
2 L's.
2 L's?
Extreme, what do you
No.
say?
Calyx.
Oh, Calyx.
But I
You
am
have
a
to ask a
Billy guy.
Swede to be sure.
Yeah, we know so. So yeah, I think expanding your library, Rufer, you've got all kinds of games.
Mhm.
Do you find yourself, I mean, not, obviously we're talking about solo, but you're still our guest. We can talk about whatever. But do you try to have a good helping of different styles, solo being one of them?
So at this point, because I have so many, I only buy certain games if there's like a certain niche that I like need a new game. Don't need, obviously, but if I'm trying to buy a new game, like a party game or for certain player counts.
Oh, Blood
then I'll
Bowl.
just-
That's a party game.
That's true. Party of 2 or
Yeah.
party
Or
of
one.
4 for Dungeon
Or
Bowl.
one if you're extreme.
Yeah, a sad party.
Then I'll kind of buy that. Otherwise, if it doesn't have a solo mode, at this point, it's not even on my radar.
Wow. Okay. So that's going to be like a prerequisite now for you to get new games.
Now, are you
Yeah,
more
but-
of a Euro style or Ameritrash?
No, it's Euro trash American style.
Oh, okay.
I like all games. So I don't really, it just sort of depends on the theme and how it plays, the mechanics of it. I do enjoy Euro games, I like games where I push my luck and there's dice rolling and more, like luck based, which is what you traditionally think of with like Ameritrash or like dudes on a board. It just sort of depends
over
on what
rule set,
it is.
basically.
Yeah. To me, like I said, I have so many that it's like I spend the majority of my time. This is my like decompression time where it's like nice and quiet at nighttime. I'll come down, play a couple of rounds. I leave the game set up on the table in the basement. Nobody's going to mess around with it. And then I'll come maybe finish it the next day. Or
What happens if they do?
I would have no idea because I would figure it out eventually, I guess.
Do you think like one day you think you've been winning all these solo games, but Courtney's been helping you the whole time?
I think it would probably be more the kids. I couldn't even, I don't think I could get Courtney to mess around with any of these games. I don't know.
How long until your kids start beating you? I know for Brian, it was when Alex was what, 2?
And before you answer that, is that like the equivalent of the when can you take the old man? Like, is it like 14? I feel
they're beating me now in some of these games. Honestly, not these
rolling
like,
dice. They're insanely lucky at rolling dice.
Yeah, like we'll play. There's a Monopoly gamer. It's like a.
I know that one with the little cars, right? With that one?
No, so there's like a Mario Kart one, but the one that we
Okay.
have is all the Mario characters, and they love that because the rules are pretty simple, and they just like kick my ass every time. It's not even close, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Are you playing Bowser?
No, I am usually like whoever they don't want to be. So it'll be like King Boo or
that's your problem.
Tanuki Mario or
Yep. You're naming all the garbage characters. That's why. All the dookie guys, as I would call them.
Yeah. Right.
So you're playing games. Are you like thinking about what games you have that to show your kids? Like, are they ready for certain things?
Not yet. Addison's only 7, so there's maybe in a few years. And I do think about that when I'm purchasing games that'll be kind of mid to lightweight, thinking like, oh, maybe next year or coming up, or we'll buy like some like games that are designed for younger kids. So we do have plenty of games for kids. And
Kingdom Death Monster is not good for kids.
No, but I would love to play that.
I would say like over 17 unless accompanied
By an adult, yeah.
By like an adult you trust.
There is a fetishized breast pump weapon, so.
Did you paint that one up, Aaron?
Yes.
Extreme, since you have an older child now, do you have any recommendations for Rufer on good games to get the kids into when they are of age?
I mean, I'm sure he's more versed in a variety of games than I am. I mean, very quickly once Alex started playing games, he started kicking my ass in almost everything, other than Blood Bowl. Like, he can't grasp Blood Bowl for some reason. So it was interesting, like, as we were playing games together, how differently our minds work, where he picks up almost every other game much better than I do. And I'm trying to like accomplish some weird goal, and he's already moving towards the victory.
Is it because the Blood Bowl rules are so old
and archaic?
He can't grasp it.
I think it's more like the grid and like moving around in the grid based thing, because Montauk I was very good at too, and he struggled with. And I think it's just that like board management and spatial.
Would you destroy him if you were in the Tron world on light cycles?
I don't know.
Well, what about Rivet Wars? That's on the grid.
It is, but he's much better at managing his army and like bringing out stuff and putting together combinations that I don't see.
You're just trying to get Wolverine out there, right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to do cool stuff, and next thing I know, I lost. And
check it out. I just brought in the Man in Black, Samuel L. Jackson. He's like, yeah, I don't care. I'm killing.
He's like,
you.
great. That's the only thing you still have left alive on the board.
Right. So, Rufer, with your giant game collection, as you can find him on That Board Game Dad on Instagram. Any other thing we should promote, by the way? Podcast? and Instagram. What else? Anything?
That's it. It's really all I'm doing right now.
That board game podcast. What are do you have like a top 5 that people should check out, even if it's ones that are already on like the typical list that everyone says?
Like if someone was looking to get into solo gaming, what are the 5 recommends you give out?
Oh, okay. So, solo, and I was going to say normal as well. We're on, yes, on topic, but he's our guest as well. So
Okay.
5
So
solo and 5 normal, or the together, whatever.
So I grabbed 5 solo games that are kind of toward the top of my list, varying player counts for a couple of these. Some of them, like the first one, so Feast for Odin, we've talked about it a couple of times now. I'm in love with this game. The things that it does, it scales very well from 1 to 4 player. I've played it in the 2-player count. I've seen videos of like playthroughs of higher, just to kind of see the interactions for the higher, like 3 and 4 players, but the solo rules are very easy to pick up. It's very puzzly.
Is it, you say it's harder at 3 and 4 because they're like burning up all those actions like you were saying?
Yeah,
earlier?
so it gives you less of the important moves, I suppose. So I'm very interested. Once I get the rules down, that's one that I want to bring to my gaming group. I just need a good night for it.
Is Brian in the gaming group?
Brian is. Brian
Okay, I
is in
just
the
want to
gaming
check because I was hoping he wasn't. To maybe it's like sliding me a 20 with the handshake. You know what I mean?
No, he is a nurse that used to work with me, and now he got his advanced, like his master's degree. So he's moved out of the hospital setting. So we only see each other now at game night. So I get.
Is he like I don't know you anymore?
No, he's not too cool for me yet, but now I'm an internet celebrity, so he wants to keep me around for the clout.
Yeah, that's true. Double-digit subscribers, hopefully.
Yeah.
What else you got?
All right, so next is, unfortunately, they're backwards, so I'm sorry about that, but
No, it's fine. It's only backwards for you.
oh, good. Nemesis. So this is a higher price point game, which
It's all right.
is
We don't
kind of-
have hobos in our list, so.
Oh, good. So it's a higher price point, but it plays very good solo. How we talked about before with playing multiple characters at once, I think it plays best at least 2 because of the synergy of the characters in the game. And this is basically, if you took the movie Alien without using the IP of Alien and then played a board game where the game is trying to kill you at every turn, that would be Nemesis. It's you basically wake up in a hypersleep. There's a crew member that's dead. You need to explore the ship, but because you're kind of out of it from waking up, you don't know where anything is. So you explore the rooms, trying to figure out what's going on, and you have like a hidden objective if you're playing in a multiplayer. It's so much fun. It does take a little bit longer to play, but the components in the box are awesome. The figures that come with it are
Oh, there's models, huh?
yeah, they're really, really cool.
Nice.
Hence the price point, probably.
That's true.
Correct.
I bet you, I'm sure there's been actual like Aliens licensed games that are probably garbage. And
Well, there's one out now, yeah. There's a
what's that
miniature
like?
game. There's
Yeah,
a miniature
miniature
game out now.
slow-mo.
Yeah.
The next one is called Coffee Roaster. This
Oh,
is
I've seen that one the other
Yeah.
day.
yeah. So this is solo only, and the theme, I mean, it's in the title. You're trying to brew the best cup of coffee that you can. So instead of using cards or a deck management, you're building the best bag of beans. How's that for alliteration?
Yeah.
So you are taking certain tiles and you're upgrading them. You're manipulating the numbers to try and get within like a heat range. And if you cook the beans too long, they go bad. And so it's very, very fun. The box says it plays in about 10 to 30 minutes. I could definitely see that. Relatively
Did you
low
say,
price point.
depending on who you're playing with, could you turn that into a drinking game, but a coffee drinking game.
Maybe, but it would kind of be hard to play more than one. It really is directed at just sitting down you could really sit down at a coffee shop. It doesn't take up a lot of, table space, and just sort of very
Feel like you're almost LARPing at that point.
kind of.
Like if you're at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And
it's very meta.
You've already you filled out a job application to work there, but they haven't called you back yet. You're just going to sit in that table, stare at the girl working there while you play this game by yourself.
Well, and then when you get the right score, you say, see, look how good I am at making coffee. You should hire me.
We're going to call the police.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Cops are on their way.
All right. Next one is Under Falling Skies. So this is a solo only game. This is closer to like your Ameritrash that we talked about. There's a lot of dice rolling, and then you're assigning the dice values to certain places on the board. But it's almost like a Galaga game, but on a board game. So it starts out and you've got these alien ships that are at the top of the board, and you're trying to shoot them out of the sky before they crash land into the earth. And so you're using the dice to manipulate certain actions on the board to keep the alien ships from entering the atmosphere, basically. It's so that plays in, this says 20 to 40 minutes. I would say.
By the way, thanks for saying Galaga, not Galaga either. I've heard people say that, and I was like, that's insane. I mean, I know it was pre-internet, so you couldn't check, but it's Galaga. Come on.
Yeah, it's Galaga.
By the way, those time limits on games, I always find myself always on the high end of all these kind of, because it always seems like they do you think it's like they put 20 to 40 thinking someone thinks it's a quick game and they'll buy it because I can play 20 minutes. Meanwhile, it's never going to be 20 minutes.
Well, I mean, the other end of that would be I could lose in 20 minutes. I mean, maybe if I really screwed it up bad enough, I could probably lose this game in 10 to 20 minutes.
It's something to shoot for.
Yeah, maybe that's what you're going for your new high score. How quickly can I get this over with?
Oh, that's how I played Blood Bowl.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I've heard about this game called Golf where they do low score, which is weird.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar. That's also, they have solo rules for that as well.
I'm not sure I'm saying golf. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Golf.
Golf.
Rufer, you play frisbee.
It's a high
golf,
price
right?
point game.
Yeah.
You play frisbee golf?
I do. Yeah. I have.
Yeah. That real life though, not board.
No board game for that.
Oh,
That I've seen. So maybe there's a market for it.
Yeah, I think so. Is that your last one? Or do you have one more?
Last one, Palm Island. It's a hand management game where you are sort of going through cycling, getting resources on the cards to try and build a better score on your hand. The nice thing with this is it's a low amount of cards for it, so it travels very well. So this would be good for I got a 30-minute lunch break and I'm trying to just kind of do, instead of just sitting on my phone, I could play a solo card game, or if you had a commute where you're on the train for a while, this would be a good game for somebody like that. It doesn't take up a lot of space in your backpack or in your pocket even.
But just so I'm clear, you prefer someone to play a game like that as opposed to listening to your podcast or going on your Instagram on their phone? Just so I'm clear.
Well, I'm a fan of people that clip their toenails on the train. That's my favorite.
I'll never forget, by the way. So I moved to a desk at a job, like a new desk, and I opened up the top drawer and it was filled with toenails.
Oh, yum.
I wanted to fucking throw up. It was so bad.
Didn't you? I would have taken them all out on the desk and laid them out and seen how brittle they were to try to gauge their age.
It looked like a late 20s woman.
No, to gauge how long ago they were clipped.
Oh, how long? Oh, okay.
And then I would arrange them.
Yeah. And then eat them, or what's the end game on this?
Then I would just shuffle it up and do it all over again, and just know that I'm doing it on the company's dime.
How does that solo game rank with Rufer's 5?
It's below that, but it's above the greatest party game, Blood Bowl.
Okay. Jimmy, as far as other games, since you are a board game connoisseur at this point, you don't have to like show them off, but what are your top 5 just games, not necessarily solo?
Right now, I think my highest rated games are Feast for Odin, which we talked about.
What do you mean
Azul.
highest rated? Like, are you actually putting ratings in?
Yeah, so I go through and try to rate the games that I play, just so like when people ask what's your recommendation for this, I can go on to Board Game Geek, and I don't write reviews for them, but I'll assign them a number.
Okay. I give everything 1s or 10s or 0s or 10s.
Where do you
It's all
stand
in-
on Dice Tower and those wackos?
What do I think about them?
Yeah.
I think they're a good piece.
Careful.
Who's the one with the fedora that I hate?
Tom Vassell.
Yeah.
Why do you hate him again?
I don't know. He looks like a sex criminal.
I saw him at Gen Con and he had a crowd around him and you didn't. So
That's true. Ironically, I was allowed to have a crowd around him. He has to keep 900 feet from a school.
yeah, they did check ages on that crowd. You're right. So Feast for Odin is number 1 right now. Highest,
Right now.
Is it highest Rufer rating? Do you have like your own scoring system?
So the scoring system that I use is if it's in the 8s, that would be a game where I will play it anytime. It doesn't really take much to. I'm either going to suggest that we play it, or if I'm setting up for game night, these are the games that I'm bringing. If it's in the 7s, it is just underneath that, where I might not necessarily bring it unless somebody said, hey, do you mind bringing this? And I'm not going to fight them on it. In the 6s, it would take maybe a little bit of convincing. And then within that sort of range, it's just how, like on the spectrum of like, how obsessed am I? So like right now I have Feast for Odin and Nemesis are at an 8.5. So it's like the highest to me right now in my collection. I enjoy them the most. So if it were up to me, I would just play those games all the time.
Yeah.
Some of the other games that are highly rated for me would be Weirwords, which is a party game. It's like my favorite party game. Plays great. It's basically 20 questions with a hidden role. So someone knows there's a secret word and everyone's trying to guess what it is. So you ask yes or no questions to try and discover what the secret word is. But somebody in the group is trying to lead everybody off of what the word is, and somebody's trying to help you. And the majority of the people just have no idea. They're just guessing. So that's I really enjoy that game.
Is it with werewolves too or no?
There is a werewolf.
Okay, figured as much.
Yeah. And
Do
then
you
there's
try to? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You have
no,
others.
you go ahead.
I was just saying. Well, you got your list. You keep going.
And then probably toward the other one that's I'm a big fanboy for is a game called Point Salad. It's a card game where you are set collecting to score points. The rules are very simple to teach. That's pretty much my go-to. Plays 2 to 6 players. Scales very well.
I've heard of that
Right.
one.
Yeah, Mike, your eyes lit up with that one.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I know that game. Yeah.
So sounds like those are all highly rated. You will play them whenever. You mentioned about being a bit kind of the obsessive side of it all. Are you going to try to get some 1s and 2s on purpose to fill out your collection? Like, how do you know something is an 8 or a 9 if you don't have a 1 or a 2?
I don't plan to intentionally score things at a 1 or a 2, but if I played a game and I really was like, I could just do without this, I would probably
Like, I mean, like literally go to the store to try to buy a 1.
the number
They
1.
have Blood Bowl at Grog.
Well, no, I don't mean that literally. That's very literally. Like, you know, like a birthday candle. Here's a 1.
Yeah.
No, I mean like I've heard this game sucks ass. I want it.
Is it so bad it's good?
Right. Well, then that truly makes you realize that Nemesis is a 9 because just throwing one out there. Death Path is a 1/5. You know what I mean?
Does it score that low?
It's actually a 10.
It's a 10 out of 10.
It's either a 10 or a 9.5. It's right up there. I think it's higher than Gloomhaven and everybody's favorites, which is awesome. My friends did a good job with that. But seriously, do you want to have some ones that are? I mean, I know you don't intentionally have them, but you mean you have to have some duds, or do you just get rid of them?
I think life is short, and if I had a game that was kind of lower, it might not deter me from buying it. I don't look at the Board Game Geek rating system to buy a game. If it was gifted to me or I went out and bought it and I didn't really enjoy it, I mean, that it is what it is, but I don't look at the forums for games that such and such, this is the such, score for it.
There's so much bias with all that. Like earlier in this conversation, you mentioned if you broke down those two styles of the Euro style, there are people that are pick a side, with everything's tribal anyway. Extreme
games.
Yeah. So if you were gifted one of these bad games, do you keep it for your shelf fee or would you sell it?
Great point.
I haven't sold any games. I've been collecting since 2008, and I still have, other than there were some that I lost, unfortunately, when we were storing them before we bought our house. Who was storing them took some water damage in their basement, and I did lose some stuff, but other than that, I still have every game. And
now a step further, so you're not going to get rid of it, but obviously facing the merchandising aspect of your shelf fee, would you ever have a 2 facing out?
I have all of mine are layered kind of this way, the stacking, so you can see all the games that I have.
Which, that's a bold choice, but a better choice because then things don't get all knocked around. I find a lot of times you put things on its side, like people do, and then sometimes it's not set up to do that, and all of a sudden
it's a mess when you open up the box.
Right, exactly.
That would give me too much anxiety to do that.
I've seen people that have made there's a rope shelf that goes into the Kalex now, so you can slide the games through the ropes, so then they all slide out so they're not sitting on each other.
That would limit the amount you could fit in a shelf, though.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, ropes, it's a bit much.
It is 2021, guys. Come on.
Is it the ropes time? Is that what you're saying?
Time's up.
Everybody better know at least one rope in their life. Anything else we want to go over with Jimmy Rufer? His history with Zlurpcast, a board game aficionado, a solo board game fan as well.
Subject matter expert, if you will.
Yes, me, if you will.
What's a good, what are give me a couple of good 2-player games that a couple could play.
Okay.
Battleship Connect 4.
So the only question with that would be, how competitive is this couple?
Not overly.
Yeah.
So more like a
I've seen you guys
okay.
play Blood Bowl.
Like
Asking
a
for a
gamer
friend?
and a not so competitive, not so much of a gamer.
A normie and a gamer.
I was asking for a friend, as in, Mike, are you going to have an uncomfortable ride home?
Well, no, but this is frequently, this comes up a lot, is I'm trying to get my significant other to play a game. So I need something that's a little lighter, but it's got to be ideal, because a lot of times there's games that, they're 2 to 4 players, but they suck at 2-player,
Yeah.
So for me, I am living that situation.
Yeah.
I am an avid board gamer, and my wife enjoys playing certain games, but if the rules are too heavy or certain mechanics she just doesn't care for, I already know it's going to be a waste of my time. So to me, recommendations for 2 players, especially for couples, these would be games like Patchwork is fantastic. It's very light. It's polyomino, so you have little tiles that you're placing on the board of various shapes. If you're looking for something more competitive, Seven Wonders Duel is a good option. But again, if you're not looking for something competitive, I would kind of avoid that one. King Domino plays very well at 2 players. Again, easy to teach. Azul, this is a 2 to 4 player game, but it scales very well from 2 to 4. We really, really enjoy that one in our house. What are some other good ones? J-Pur,
Oh, yeah,
J-A-P-U-R. That's a.
Is that how you say that?
I think so.
But that's how they say JP as well. Martian chess was great. Just throwing that one out there from last week. I enjoyed that.
So
That's pretty competitive.
2 player only.
2 player only. Not competitive, Aaron?
No, I'd say Martian chess looks too competitive.
I mean, it's I think it's at the stage of it's competitive, but because you're taking a piece and giving the other person a piece, there's a lot of ha with it too. You know what I mean? Because
I did it as a goof.
As a goof.
I can actually see Martian chess being very competitive because you're always second guessing yourself. And
well, it is competitive, but what happens is when you're giving the piece to the other person, so there's you get fucked every time. It's like I think I'm doing something good, and then it's inevitably something's gonna. But you're right, you're second guessing too.
Or the people that think 3 moves in advance, so they're gonna take fucking forever to.
Yeah, there should be I don't know. I mean, I would think an unwritten rule of you just gotta keep it moving.
Anyway.
You gotta do this stop clock on it.
Mike, have you considered Death Path for your 2 player game?
It's got too big of a footprint.
Okay, fair.
We don't have tables at our house, so
You have a kitchen table.
Yeah, but there's stuff on it.
oh, there's so much shit on it.
Well, can you just slide some of that off?
No.
Do we need an intervention, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, so are you looking for a couch game, Mike?
Couch or right now, because Katie had a wrap presents, the ottoman or the coffee table is half cleared. So this is for a week and a half, I could actually play a board game.
Wow. Maybe
T
you can
for
do
2 is a good one.
What?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Extreme.
T for 2 is a good one.
I don't know that one. Yeah.
You mean actually making tea, or is there a game?
No, it's a game.
Okay, I thought
Sounds
it meant
British.
sit down and
Snack for
talk about your day and all that bullshit. We're not doing that. Mike, have you tried intercourse?
No.
Much work.
That's
not for years. No.
Is that because the tables got too much?
That's
stuff?
a solo game, and
But what about on top of the stuff that's on the table? All right. Well, we all got a lot out of this one. We have some laughs. We've had some nostalgia
tears.
moments, some cheers and some jeers as well. Jimmy Rufer, thanks for joining us. Would you be open to coming back for a future episode?
Yeah, absolutely.
There may or may not be promotion of whatever you're working on at that time, but for this
That's
time, no promises.
I appreciate you guys having me.
A last question: any chance of getting back into Blood Bowl? We all just decided it was cool again. I don't know.
I would love to.
You're on?
It's one of those things. I would like to pick up. What was the last? Was the 2020 box? Was the last rule set, right?
yeah, and then Dungeon Bowl just came out, so
Yeah, that'd be
both
great.
will be at Adepticon.
Yeah, are you gonna go to Adepticon?
I
It's
have
free.
to, I think it's my weekend to work, so I got to see if
No.
someone will switch the day. So as of now, no.
You're scheduled 3 months in advance. Wow.
Well, I'm every 3rd weekend, so I already know
Okay. Yeah.
from now until the end of time.
He has an actual real important job, unlike us, dipshit.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, the issue I run into is I am weekend A, my wife is weekend B, and then weekend C, we're off. So it just sort of depends what's going on for our life. But
At least lets you plan in advance of things. So.
Oh yeah.
And it gets you out of stuff you don't want to do.
that's
Oh,
very
I think I'm
true.
working that weekend, whether you are or not.
Yeah.
I mean, most people, I believe that's why they have kids initially, to get out of stuff.
Yep.
You're taking it a step further to have the kids and the job. We're like, listen, you're lucky to even talk to me right now.
I always use my AIDS as acting up, but that doesn't work all the time.
Your AIDS?
Yeah,
What kind do you have again?
full blown.
Oh shit. I hope it gets better.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will.
Jimmy, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Hope to see you at some kind of gaming thing or whatever in the future, and we'll do something again. I mean, you have a lot of knowledge with games, and we're running out of topics, so we may need you more than you need us.
Well, I'm happy to help.
Follow Zlurpcast on social media at Zlurpcast. Like, subscribe, all that shit. You know what I mean? Crush that sub button with the dickies if you can. And also, Discord, jump into that. There's a link in Zlurpcast Facebook page. We are now putting Zlurp Nation secret, double secret probation content, I believe, in there. So you can see that if you don't get the emails. And otherwise, also follow Jimmy's show, that board game podcast. And it actually comes up if you type it in. I thought it was gonna be like, oh man, this is gonna get lost. It's gonna be like pissing in an ocean. You know what I mean? And it comes right up. I was like, huh, look at that. Came right up.
Solid
Well,
SEO
great.
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That board game podcast. How many episodes do you have? You have 3 so far or just 2?
2 so far. Third one will be coming out this weekend.
And maybe you'll be doing some like overhead cam shots you want to set up. Been asking about that.
I would love to do that eventually.
All right. If anyone knows, if anyone does that, leave a note in the comments below.
I do it for my
express your needs.
OnlyFans, but you don't.
Right.
want that.
Like, does he need, 3
Are you saying
cameras?
if I subscribe, then you'll give me your tips?
Yes.
Very good.
And is it worth doing the under the balls thing or not? You're going to split your audience. Mike likes it. I don't.
Mhm.
Just saying.
You got to tag the under the ball stuff so people know to skip that video.
No, yeah, put the tag in there, when to do that. It's a good idea. Other than that, I think that's it. Bye, everyone.
Zlurpcast! Brought to you by Zomboy. Eat flesh.